Hello? Jan, are you muted? Oh, there you are.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Great. I saw that you have to cut out a little bit early.
Yes, I do tonight.
Okay. All
I
right.
have a community meeting for my HOA tonight, so
Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
Oh, you're so good that you go to that.
Yeah. Well, we have they're working on trying to build a big YMCA in our community, so I want to go and see what the progress is on that and if they're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good. How have things been going otherwise?
Pretty good.
Good summer so far?
Yeah, it's been really nice. We've been traveling a bit,
Mm-hmm.
but we're finally home now, so just sitting by the pool with my girls and doing fun stuff with them. So it's good.
That's great.
How about you?
Oh, it's been a really good mix of work and play.
Yeah, good.
Taking good advantage of the summer as it is. So
Nice.
that feels good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How is it was interesting not to have class this past week.
Yeah.
It
was nice though. The 4th of July was good, and
yeah.
It's just started getting really hot, and well, I'm in Aurora, but we were on Nantucket.
Those of you who did the evaluation, I just want to thank you so much for doing that, because that gave me some good information too. But one of the things was, folks trying to make sure that they're keeping up with their mindfulness practice. And so I just want to do a quick check-in, and this is not a, you should be or anything. All of this is for you, right? It's for you and your practice. So I'd love to hear from each of you, just, how you're doing and how you feel your practice is going. Do you feel like you're on track, that you're able to keep up with it 3 minutes a day, whether it comes in 1 minute at a time or while you're brushing your teeth or whatever, or how that's going? Karen? Hi.
Yeah.
We got you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. I was thinking about that today because just a lot has been happening in my life in the last couple of weeks. And at my counseling appointment yesterday, I was talking about how this class is really, in conjunction with my counseling, is moving me forward much faster than I had been moving. I'd been kind of stuck. Mm-hmm. So that's a real positive. But as far as the practice is going, I find myself really in touch with noticing the knot in my stomach when something isn't right.
Okay.
And being very mindful of that, using my breathing to try to move through it, and making note of what it was I was feeling at that moment. And then later, and I know, Dina, that you say sometimes that we don't need to know why, but I had something happen the other day and I really did need to know why it was happening. And I instead of trying to analyze it to death, I just sat with it for about 36 hours, and then it came to me. And I was like, that's the problem. And this is how I can get that obstacle out of my way. So I'm really interested and excited and a little bit scared to see how this is going to work once I'm back in my job full time. Because right now, if I have a bump, I can deal with it. I can stop things and deal with it and navigate it. That won't be necessarily the case. That immediacy won't be there in the fall.
Yeah, beautifully put. You said several things that I really liked. One is you're checking in with yourself. That's a mindfulness practice. So you're doing that. You're noticing when something's coming up. And this is true for all of us, right? When we're starting to notice that, whether that has been your practice or not in the past, this is taking it up a notch, right? It's kicking it up. and making sure that we're conscious of that. Secondly, you mentioned the idea of, the why, like why did that happen or whatever. And sometimes it is valuable for us to know, wait, what was the trigger? And sometimes we can ask the question, why was I triggered? My point, I think, in the book specifically was, we don't have to, like you said, analyze it to death, right? To like, well, if I had done it this way, or should I have, and all of that. That, in my experience, is not very helpful, right?
Right.
But just to notice what's happening in your body and allow whatever's happening to happen. That allowing piece is so critically important that we skip over because we're too busy fighting it. I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel the yuckiness that's coming up right now. So I'm going to shove it away, or I'm going to shove it down, or I'm going to ignore it, or whatever, and it will fester.
Mm-hmm.
Like we all know, if what we resist persists. So the idea is allowing it to do its thing, and then to hopefully dissipate, because that's what typically happens when we give our egoic mind or our social conditioning some attention. We shine a spotlight on it gently. It tends to like go, oh, I guess I don't, it kind of loses power. So those are all great things. The other piece was the concern I heard here about what happens in the fall, what happens when I'm in it and I've got to do my mindfulness practices. That's the whole purpose of doing this summer.
Right.
You build the muscle, and all of a sudden when you are in it, it's not necessarily that you're going to immediately do it perfectly, whatever that looks like, but that you're going to notice it much quicker. It's, I talk about in these chapters for this week, that notion of resiliency, how quickly we're able to come back to our inspired self and to realize, oh, that was social conditioning that just happened, right? You may not get it in the moment, right? Always. I'm finding that that's true in relationship, for example. Like for me personally, my own experience is that when I'm on my own, I'm really well versed in this stuff. Like I live very from my inspired self most of the time. And then I might get into relationship mode with someone who might trigger me, whether it's a family member or a partner, somebody. And all of a sudden I find myself yanked, back to my egoic self. And I'm like, whoa, and I can catch it pretty quickly, but it's not necessarily in that moment. So, but, I think that's just building that muscle. It's building the muscle. And it's definitely gotten better. When I say better, I mean, I'm much more aware that I am being pulled. I'm getting stuck in something. I'm pretty quick to see that. And then I can, like you said, Karen, like I can breathe through it and, and proceed. So yeah, I mean, it's all a practice. It's all a practice. Yeah. It's not a perfect, it's a practice. So,
and the breathing where you exhale for 2 or 3 times longer than you inhale.
Yeah.
Calms me down. It's like air conditioning my system.
Oh, that's beautiful.
In heat. I mean, I'm like, really anxious or, I just feel really hot, right? Like hot in anger or in fear or whatever. And that breathing is like turning the air conditioning on.
Yeah.
For me, right. It feels so good.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Who else would like to?
I'll go. I am definitely much more regular with doing meditations, mindfulness practices than I was before this class, so yay for that. Am I doing it as frequently and as much as I hoped? No, but overall, that's okay. I sometimes get on my case for it. I definitely notice that elements of my life are, how do I articulate this? It's a familiar feeling from when I used to meditate regularly on nice elements coming back just around, overall how I feel about my life and what's going on. And your book just has lovely reminders in it for me, Dina, which I really appreciate. So thank you for having written it and doing this class, because I'm definitely getting back into modes that I was in before, and it just all together, I'd say it brings me more in tune and more grounded. I noticed that term grounded in chapter 8, and I loved the tree mindfulness practice, because I love trees and just feeling like my feet were roots. That was so cool. I really like that one. So I would really like to be more regular on every day. I would say almost every day. And often I've been doing them on my own and just in silence. And I was near Royal Gorge recently, and I was in a park area, and all I did was listen to birds for about 10 minutes. That was it, with my eyes closed. I just was like with birds, and it was wonderful. And I know I wouldn't have done that if I wasn't doing this with you. So I'm back into a mode that means a lot to me, and I'm really going to need it with my theater work. I just get how much I need and want this with my theater work. So thanks.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Hi, Georgina. We're just going around talking about how we're doing, in terms of, for that accountability piece of just, it's not this, but it's more of a, like, just sharing how you're doing with your mindfulness practice, the 3 minutes a day, or how that's showing up for you. So I don't know, Deanna, Badgie, if you'd like to go next. Badgie, sure.
Yeah, I am definitely noticing more awareness of breathing, period, and the fact that I stop breathing and a lot, like when I'm stressed, and times when I don't even realize I'm stressed, but I'm becoming more aware of my breath and breathing more, and then just that, like, observer piece of observing what's going on with my body, breathing through it. And I've been doing a lot of breathing through my swimming. When I'm swimming, that's kind of a meditative, mindful time for me, which I've been doing a lot. Most mornings I've been swimming. But I do feel like I want to do more than I am doing, and more practice with all the different types of exercises. So yeah, I want to do more. I'm doing more than I was before the course, but I feel like
That's great.
Can and should do more still.
Well, too, there's so many in there. There's so many. So trying them, and then, and again, rating them at the bottom of the page, in your journal, giving them a number kind of helps you remember, oh yeah, this is one I want to make sure I continue with.
Yeah.
So, if that's helpful for you. Yeah. Thanks, Deanna.
Yeah, I feel similar to Baji. I've been pretty good about doing meditations, focusing on breathing and doing, like, body scans, which have actually helped me. I was having some sleep issues, and I feel like I'm getting better sleep now. So I kind of do those right before bed to help myself relax and kind of let go of the day. But kind of similar, I wish I was doing more just kind of during the day as well, and not just right before bed, to try to explore a little bit more and kind of push myself a little bit more, because I feel like I'm still kind of staying kind of at the basic level, and not really digging deeper, which I do want to do.
Great. That's good to know, right? That's good self-reflection. So then you can think, okay, what do I want to do differently? And it may be just seeing what comes up, as you're going through the book, and what you like and what you did, what resonates for you. So I'd say the same thing. Yeah, thanks. Karen?
Yeah, I have a question for Deanna. I struggle with sleep too. Can you just elaborate a little bit on your body scan and how that seems to be helping you?
Yeah, sure. So I purchased a subscription to the Calm app for myself. And they have options for different time limits. So they have like a 15-minute, a 20-minute, a 30-minute. But I generally do like a 20-minute body scan. And so it just kind of talks you through starting at your toes and just like noticing the sensations of either your toes in contact with your bed sheets, or do you feel tingling, or is there any heat or coolness or whatever? And then it just kind of works its way up your body. And so just continuing to your breathing practice, and then focusing on trying to relax each of those body parts. It just seems to kind of, I fall asleep before the meditation is done generally now. Which is really good, because it usually, before it was taking me like an hour to fall asleep at night or more sometimes. So I feel like it's really helped me just to kind of calm and focus on my body, as opposed to my mind constantly running about whatever is happening in my life.
Right. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I will say, Insight Timer, my meditations are also in the process of being uploaded, but there's many on there already that have finally gotten approved and whatever. It's just a long process. But anyway, so Insight Timer has tons also. The app that I think I might have mentioned the first day, I can't remember if I mentioned it or not, is called Breathe. And it's known, it might be under something like Stop, Think, and Breathe, which makes no sense to me because it's not about thinking, it's about, but anyway, so it shows up on my phone as Breathe, but when I went to the App Store, I think it was Stop, Think, and Breathe. I think that's the one. And it's an awesome app. There's a whole lot on there for free. And that's where I started. That was the app. I looked at a whole bunch when I first started meditating. That one I loved. Did I share about this already with you, about this particular one? No? Okay. So what it does is it first does a physical body scan. So it gives you a few seconds, 10 seconds or something. You can take as long as you want to scan your body to say, how am I feeling right now? Like, how am I doing? Is my physical body, do I have pain somewhere? Am I, on a scale of, I think it's 1 to 5 or something, I'm feeling really good or I'm not feeling so good, and whatever, that scale. Then it goes into lists of emotions, and you get to choose whichever emotions you're feeling. And what you start to realize is that what you're holding in your mind is not only, could be both positive and negative emotions both at the same time. So you might be feeling scared, but you're also excited. You might be feeling happy, but you're also concerned, all of that stuff. And so that actually, when I was this was many years ago when I was in some intensive therapy, and I was realizing just how complicated what I was holding was at one moment. And it really helped me unpack what I was seeing. You get to choose 5 different emotions from the list. And there's a list, the lists go on and on. You click through them. And so you choose the 5 that resonate for you, and you can literally look at the list and you say, yep, it's that. It's not that, it's kind of that, no, it's that one, and then you choose that one. And from all of that information, they give you what meditation you recommend. And there's usually 2 or 3 or usually about 3 that you can choose from. And then you can choose time frames. So you can say, I just want a 3-minute meditation on, maybe they say they come up with, there's some anxiety in there, so they're going to give you some grounded, whatever. They've got a whole slew of meditations. And you get to choose, and you can say 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes or something. And at some point, there's also a paid, you can pay for more options and blah, 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 blah. But I never paid for it. I just used, because what they had for free worked great for me. I just really liked the fact that it was a little bit more holistic than some of the other ones, that you gave information about how you were. You got to check in with not only your body, but also your mind. your emotional state, and then they would recommend stuff. So anyway, I offer that as well. I also happen to have I was requested to do a sleep meditation, helping somebody get to sleep. And so I have that recorded. I don't think it's up on my website, but if you're interested in it, let me know. I'm happy to share it with y'all.
What's it called, Dina?
Which
The one you were just describing, what's it called, the app?
The app is called Stop, Think, and Breathe. That's what you'd find it under, Stop, Think, and Breathe.
Thank you.
Sure. But what I'm also saying is that I have a meditation for sleep that I've done. So if folks want it, I can even just upload it I can have Brandy upload it to the page for next week or whatever, and then you all will have access to it if you're interested. Yes? Good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad that question came up because I wasn't sure if I had mentioned Stop, Think, and Breathe, and and all these other resources I think are always great to share. Feel free to continue to share them on Facebook in our community also. Yeah, if you come up with other ones that you really like. Georgina, do you want to share how you're doing, how things are going for you with your practice?
Sure. Things are actually going pretty well, all things considered. I've been, so I'm working now. My days of leisure as a woman, as a lady of leisure, I really miss that little time period. But now I'm in the thick of things and trying to be consistent and finding it very hard to be consistent. For me, it is so helpful to meditate at noon, around that time period, because it just grounds me during the day. As things are getting hysterical, it prevents me from amping up and going with the flow, but rather just kind of stopping and being with myself for a moment so I can really assess what's happening. So at times I do have the occasion to actually meditate at noon. At times I don't, and I am so grateful for the concept of just checking in with my breath when I have those moments. Mm-hmm. You know, if I'm showing up in someone's office for a meeting and I'm sitting there and I've got just a couple of minutes, it makes a huge difference. Not necessarily even for that meeting, but for the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm noticing is the sort of impact it has. Yeah. So this has been really helpful for me. I'll admit I'm way behind in terms of the exercises in the book. I'm reading, but not implementing. Okay. You know, I'm kind of behind on the implementation process, but I'm reading. And so I understand where we're going. And just from my personality and in terms of suiting my needs, it works really well to kind of get this sort of foresight of what's going to come so that I can sort of be prepared for it and get my mind around it. And I feel as though at times I am over intellectualizing the process. But at the same time, if I also feel like if that buys me any type of additional comfort, you know, there's nothing wrong with that.
That's true. That's true. And remember too, it's your process, right? So whatever you're finding that's working, that's feeling good for you, I would say that's awesome. And if you're feeling yourself like I want to do more, I wish I was doing more, whatever, that's setting an intention and saying, okay, how am I going to make that happen? Am I going to add an extra 10 minutes a day of reading or doing one of each day doing one of the activities in the book or something? You can make that happen if you choose, but this is really your process. So yeah, whatever works for you. My thought too, though, is putting the time in now. And again, I stick by the do what's best for you. What feels best for you. And at the same time, I will say, once the course is over in 3 weeks, what's the likelihood that you're going to go back and do these activities? Then you might, but this is a chance, and that's part of what the course is for, is to be able to do them together now. Mm-hmm. Again, that I just say that because I want to give you the opportunity to use the time while we have it. But that's completely your choice. Completely your choice. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, I'd like to, well, I'm going to ask one question first. How many of you had the opportunity to do some intention setting from the end? You know, we haven't seen each other in 2 weeks, but how many of you did like some sort of intention setting for your life, like the thinking big picture, the dreaming big, that kind of stuff? Okay. Okay. So what I'd like to do is, because chapter 7 actually starts off, I kind of reached back into chapter 6 a little bit. So that's what I'd like to do. And I think I mentioned when we ended last time that that's what that was my intention. And I think if we start with a meditation, I'm going to kind of bring us back, since it's been 2 weeks, I'm going to bring us back into that space. And just see what comes up for you. When I talk about intention, when I talk about, you know, that notion of dreaming big and what comes to mind, or why you're here, any of those things, I'm going to ask a series of questions. Just notice what comes up for you. Like notice, is it similar to what you've written before? Is something new emerging? Just so I'm going to invite you into that. So if you can find yourself in a comfortable seated position with your eyes closed or gaze down. And we'll start off just noticing your breath right now. Notice what's happening in your mind, what's coming up. What's arising for you. And even if you like, you know, you can do the leaves on the stream, watching each of your thoughts come and then waving them goodbye as they go off down and around the stream. And then I invite you to just focus inward for a moment. Notice where in your body there's any kind of stuckness or stiffness or anything arising, discomfort. And as you breathe, as you take your inhale, just notice that place. And as you exhale, as always, breathe some love, some care into those spaces, wherever in your body needs some extra love and care right now. And I'm going to invite you to notice the air, the space around your body, and notice if you had to say where your inspiration comes from, where your inspired self lives, where it shows up for you in relation to your body. Just notice. And I'm asking for, where do you feel any kind of expansion in your body? There might be some places that feel more constricted. Oftentimes we keep emotions in our belly, in our hips, sometimes in our neck and shoulders. There's might be some tightness. Where is there a place in your body that feels more open? That feels more spacious? Because that spacious place might just be where your inspiration might live in your body. It might also be outside your body. Perhaps it's this notion of right behind your spine or right above your head. Wherever you feel open, just sit with that for just a moment, for a couple of breaths. Notice that openness, if you can sense it anywhere in your body or outside your body, that openness, perhaps it's full of love. What does that feel like to go there? To think of that as a place or space that's just filled with love. Does that make it expand even further? And so from that space, I'm going to invite you to ask the question with no pressure here. You're just asking the question, why am I here? There's no force, there's no forcing of the answer. It's just asking a question to this spacious, loving place. And from there, whether something came up for you or not, doesn't matter. There's no pressure here whatsoever. When you're in that open, loving space, and I use the word intention, what does that mean for you? What does that feel like? What's the feel of the word intention? Does it feel contracting that now you got to do something? Or does it feel like, oh yes, I want to move in a direction that increases this in my life? Increases this feeling of loving expansiveness. That's all an intention is just saying yes. With no attachment to the outcome of where it's going to end up for you. But more just putting it out there, this big yes. From that place, oftentimes we get inspiration. Things start popping up, unbidden. You're not asking for them even at this point. Sometimes just inspiration will hit. So this is a beautiful meditation that you could do in the morning and just see what comes. And if nothing comes, at the very least, you're sitting in loving expansiveness for a few more minutes of your day. I guarantee you great changes will happen. This is where we dream big. There's no small thinking here. It's just huge. It's just big and keeps getting bigger. What if this were our home? What if we called this place home? What if we considered this our default? How would that mean you show up in the world? How would that mean you interact with others from this place? I invite you to take a deep breath in and together exhale. One more time, inhale and exhale. And if your eyes are closed, go ahead and flutter them open. And welcome back. Welcome back. So, did you notice something? Did you notice anything different from previous meditations, perhaps? Here, in that state. Is that a meditation that you've done before? Is that, have folks gone to that place of expansive awareness? Yes, no?
I have. And yeah, can I have a clarification on something?
Sure.
You gave not a definition, but an explanation of what an intention is. And I think it was saying yes with no expectation. Was that it?
Yeah. With
Okay.
no, it's basically saying yes, right, to what's possible without what I call, what is called an attachment to the outcome.
Right.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I think that I have felt this way before. And for me, this time, and maybe other times too, I'm not sure, but if the first time I did this in a very directed kind of way was with my life coach, and we made vision boards from that and so forth. And I dreamed really, really big. And as time went on and I looked at that vision board, I decided that, and I didn't have this piece of with no expectations, okay? I looked at that dream and I went, I don't want to put out that much energy at this point in my life.
there you go.
You know, I mean, I'm moving toward retirement. I don't want to work that hard. And you know, what my life coach said was, it won't be work if it's truly if you're truly living your highest, most empowered self. And I'm like, well, you know, you're in your 30s and I'm in my 60s, and there's a difference. And I don't mean to be ageist in saying that, but, you know, moving someplace new and starting over for me is a lot of emotional labor. And I came to a decision as a result of moving through these chapters with you, Dina, that I could stay in Iowa and be very, very happy. That I don't have to, sometimes, like, you know, I tell myself, oh, you should. And it's like, no, you shouldn't. You know, you should only do what lights you up. And if the idea of putting your life into a moving van and moving to Santa Fe scares you a whole lot and seems like just too much work, then maybe it's not the right time to make that decision. If that makes sense. So I often struggle with what is limiting, you know, how the conditioned self limits, the socialized self limits me from the dreamer self. Now, this dreaming about what is possible with no expectation frees me up to dream.
Yeah.
And I haven't had that piece, that with no expectation. So that was what was different about this time.
Right. I'm really glad. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about what you just said, because, and I think I touch on this in the book, but I want to elaborate a little bit. This idea of dreaming big and setting an intention, oftentimes that's what happens. People, there's a difference. When I hear the word dream big, I'm out here, right? And then when I think about setting an intention, it feels very directed, right? Which is why I said what I said in this particular meditation. And Deanna had to go. She told me earlier that she was going to leave early, so that's why she stepped away. But anyway, so I don't want to feel contracted by setting an intention. And it's only contracted if I have a very specific outcome that I am, like you said, expecting that's what's going to happen, that I have an attachment to this particular outcome. And what I want to say about that is, if when we do that, we're kind of putting our dreams into a box. And we're saying to the universe, or whatever your belief is, right? We're saying, this is what I want. And you'll hear other people will say, there's a lot of coaches and stuff out there will say, I want you to think it, dream it, smell it, taste it, feel it. Well, you've heard all of that, like use all your senses and really go there. And I don't have I'm not here to say you shouldn't do that or whatever, but to me, and I like the idea of feeling what it would feel like in your body if it was already occurring. Well, I'm talking about manifestation here, right? That I get all of that, and I do think that that's a really valuable thing to feel. Oh, what would it feel like to already be there? What would it feel like to be doing the best job I could be doing? But if I use that as an example, my dream job, right? If I were really specific about what that looks like, so I'm going to be, a director of a X, Y, or Z, and I'm going to, like, the more you do that, the smaller your dream really gets, right? As opposed to saying, I have an intention to feel this way in my body about this dream. And it's a both and I'm going to set this intention that that's how I want to feel. And I'm going to say it out loud. I might write it down. I might write it 100 times, like whatever you need to do. You might do an affirmation, whatever works for you in your process. But the idea is, I personally it doesn't feel good to me to be so specific. I feel like I'm cutting off the options, that I can only see what I would consider like my puny brain can come up with. As opposed to, I have an intention to feel this particular way in my body about this job, or about my partner, or about my relationships, or about whatever it is, about my finances or whatever. I want to feel this way. And then I open it up and I say, that's it. Like, let's see where it goes. I have no attachment to the outcome, right? I'm putting the energy into the universe, as this is my language. You can fill that in with whatever works for you. And from that point, I'm not saying, okay, when's it going to happen? I'm consistent in my practice of opening up to that possibility. And what I get to in these chapters 7 and 8 is that idea of allowing myself to receive and noticing when even the smallest things happen that are coming back to me based on that intention. I want to pick up on them. I want to say, see, there it is. And there it is. And there it is. I got a call that that out of the blue, so to speak, out of the blue. I put the energy out there, the intention out there. I've set an intention, let it go, right? And then allow myself to receive what's going to come from it. This is the difference between pushing as a manipulator, as I talk about in the book, versus the pull, the magnet. People come at this very, from all different kinds of ways. There are some people out there, things that they might not use the word manipulator. They think, you got to pound the pavement and you'll get, whatever you want. And pound the pavement, I mean, in terms of like, let's say you're trying to build a business and you are, you got to make 100 cold calls every day and that for sure you'll get your business. And I'm sure that's true. If you made 100 cold calls every day, you probably would get your business. That's just not how I'm interested in doing it, right? I'm setting my intentions. I am putting things in place in my life to allow that to happen, and then the phone rings, right? I'm now a magnet as opposed to pushing. Does that make sense? Yeah. I'm going to ask I want to pause for a moment, and because there's a lot in chapter 7 in particular about, scarcity versus abundance, contraction versus expansion. I talk about the manipulator versus the magnet, all of these different ways. I talk about limiting beliefs. Are there questions that you have when you went through some of that stuff? Did you notice yourself? Oh yeah, I notice I sometimes, whatever realm we're talking about, again, it could be your finances, it could be your relationships, it could be your health and wellness, it could be any of the realms of our lives. You might be, a manipulator in one, but a magnet in all the rest, right? So it's sort of a constant evaluation or reflection, perhaps is a better word, of where are you in each of the aspects of your life, and are you where you want to be? So I would love to hear if folks have questions or concerns, or here's where I'm stuck, that you think would be useful for other folks to hear. Georgina?
I'm talking a lot. Oh, go ahead. Somebody else.
Georgina.
Thanks, Karen. You're so funny. This concept of the thing that I stumbled on, and it opened up this whole other, I actually did a little journaling and reflecting on this, is this concept of letting go of what no longer serves you. Okay. I am not a hoarder. Okay. I want to put that out on the table. Nonetheless, I admit I have a metaphorical chest of drawers that's full of stuff, and both metaphorical, but also real. Okay. So I just moved, right? So this is really real to me. And I have so many things I have not relinquished and that I'm keeping. So I actually went, Tuesday night, and I got a massage because my back hurt so bad, because over the long weekend, I unpacked 40 boxes of books. And I told myself at the time, this is the last, okay, Karen, I see you relating. This is the last damn time I'm moving these books across the country with me. This is it. I'm done, And of course, many of these books I've read, my field is literature. Many of them I haven't. And I'm holding on to some of these. And, the greatest analogy of all is I've since gotten rid of them. But at one point in time, I was actually carting around the world issues of National Geographic magazine that at some point in time I was going to read. Okay. So this whole concept of letting go with what you no longer need is so weird and it's so real to me. So I have to share this anecdote. After I moved here, it was about 2 weeks after I moved in, there was a community yard sale. I thought, what a perfect time to get rid of clothes and shoes and knickknacks and things I move, but I don't really need. And so sure enough, I was out there for the community yard sale. I had a rack of clothing out there. I sold about I sold all kinds of shoes. I made a whole $21, y'all. Woo! But hey, let's face it, that's 21 items, right? That I got rid of. And, I got rid of all, just, some clothes and whatnot. But it was funny, as I brought the clothes in that didn't sell, I have been wearing them because I'm forcing myself to sort of wear, okay, I didn't sell these. They're back in my house. I'm going to wear them. And then what's been kind of funny is some of the things that did sell, I'm thinking, oh, I wish I kind of had those now because they go really good with this shirt that I still have or this jacket or whatever. It's just, so letting go of what you no longer need it sounds easy, but it's not. I'm struggling with that.
So I really appreciate that. Thanks, Georgina. And I think that's something that, is definitely relatable, probably to all of us in some way. And I love, I forgot her name, the woman who wrote the book about clearing out your closets or organizing.
The Japanese woman. Oh my gosh, it's right on the top of my tongue. Yeah. Anyway, Kondori, something like that. Yeah.
Marie.
Yeah.
Marie.
So she talked specifically about, does it bring you joy? Period. Does it bring you joy? And here's the point, because you may say yes to that, but notice where you're saying yes from. Is it from a place of scarcity and fear? I need this. I need to hold on to this. That's not joy. That's conditioned self, right? Joy is from that open space of, yes, right? If it's anything but the, oh, yes, and if suggestion might be just to consider, Georgina, that for every book of those 40 cartons, you do the same thing. Does this give you a big old yes? Or is it like, oh, I'm keeping this because I don't really want to get rid of it? That's conditioned stuff. Make sense? Yeah, joy is a beautiful one. I mean, if you want to live a life of joy, it means practicing what does it feel like to be living in joy. Yeah. And it is a practice because we're not used to it. We're used to telling ourselves what did I hear recently that we have, however many, 90% of the thoughts we think every day are negative. And so there's only 10% that are positive. And so we get all this other stuff that's going on in our head. And it's not a blame or shame about that. It's just, it is what is. Like what I've said all along, our brains think thoughts. That's what that's what they're here to do. And a lot of it is negative. And so, and the conditioning, to me, it's built on social conditioning. So practicing joy is no joke. If that's only 10% of our thoughts are joyful thoughts, we got to do more of that. We actually have to intentionally think joyfully. Yeah.
I would like to bring up a little expansion on this concept of letting go, because thank you, Georgina. I am also not a hoarder. However, I do have a very hard time throwing away. It is a fine art. But I want to say one thing that I have a very hard time letting go of, and that is when a relationship, business, or work, or interaction with somebody is not finished business, quote unquote, whether it's a sibling or a close friend or a cousin or, and it's not done and it's not finished. And that person doesn't want to do any more work to finish it. And it's been up to me in various situations where I've had to let go, and that is really, really hard for me. And I know sometimes, and I've gotten advice from people, Holly, time to let go. And I think letting go is just an incredibly fine and important and powerful art and muscle and skill to take good care of ourselves. And I just wanted to say, because what Georgina was saying, and thank you, Georgina, you just reminded me of that. challenge that I have sometimes, and I still have it. My husband notices it when there are certain people, and he goes, "Why do you let him or her still live in your head like that? Or why can't you?" And let them go. And I can't, it's unfinished business.
So here's what I would recommend. And Holly, I'm sure you're not alone in this. Letting go can be really challenging. And just to say the word, it's like saying to a procrastinator, "Oh, just get it done. Just do it." Like, that does not work there's tons of research on that. It does not work, right? Saying to somebody, "Just let it go," will not work. That's not helpful. What I would recommend instead is to ask the question, what do I need right now? What am I needing? What's missing here? What is my perception? What is the story I'm telling myself about this, that I feel like it's unfinished business? What am I telling myself? And what do I have the illusion of, because it is an illusion, that I'm missing here? To me, there's some kind of self-care that needs to happen about you're needing something that other person, I guarantee, is never going to fill. It's not about the other person. The other person's only ever a reflection of you and where you're at. So then you go back inside and you say, not, "Oh, shame on me, I should let this go." That's not going to be helpful. You're going to say to yourself, "What do I need right now? What part of myself is feeling the illusion of missing something, or that I need something that I'm not getting from someone else?" Because it's never going to come from them. It's only going to come from within you. And you have the capacity. We each have the capacity to care for ourselves in that way, and to give ourselves what we need. We don't need anyone else to do that for us. Because if they do, then we're talking about living from the outside in rather than the inside out. And we're never gonna get where we want to go. It's only living from the inside out, knowing that I have the capacity to make myself joyful, make myself happy, give myself what I need, all of those pieces. It's from here, it's from within. So I'm going to actually invite you to do a quick free write in your journal, not in your journal, your notebook, because this is separate from the other work. And I'm going to just invite you to write what comes up when I say the word doubt. How does doubt come into your life and perhaps cause you to go down a rabbit hole, or give you, that's how limiting beliefs come up. Doubt is such a big one that I want to spend a couple moments. So you can just write doubt over the top of your page and just see what comes. When doubt comes up for me, go ahead. Okay, take just one more minute to finish up. Does anybody want to share one quick nugget from what you wrote or what arose? Yeah, Betty.
So, in this business venture that I've taken on this summer, I'm feeling like a magnet. All kinds of things, people, resources are flying at me. But there are a couple of things, a couple of decisions that I had doubt with. And I know it came from a place of past failures, past poverty, just that place of lack. So there are two things that I saw. So I have ice cream carts and I saw these beach umbrellas and I got three. And I thought I should go ahead and buy the rest of them now while they're $9 each. And I thought, well, I was worried about spending money. Went back and they had gone on sale for $5 and there was only one left. And now I have to order them online. I've looked everywhere. And now I have to buy a set of 8. It's going to cost me a lot more money and I only needed a few more, really. That's one thing. And then some commercial ice cream freezers I saw on Craigslist for $150, 2 of them for $150. Same thinking, I saw one that was $50 and I was like, oh, I can just get one for $50. Well, it doesn't get cold enough to freeze my cold plates. So I need to have faith and focus more on abundance and less on lack and fear. And because in both of those situations, I'm going to have to, it's going to end up costing me a lot more money than it would have if I had just said, hey, this is a great deal. I can take advantage of this and keep it moving. So now, I'm realizing I have to have more faith in my ideas and focus on why something will work instead of why it might not work. Mm-hmm. So, and especially in terms of this business.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And I think that why it might not work is just social conditioning, right? That's truly a limiting belief that, and that's where we're trained to go. Our skeptical mind immediately pushes us in that direction. And then we're operating out of fear and scarcity, like you mentioned. Yeah, it's great. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else, Karen? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you said rabbit hole, and that was what I was thinking when you said it. Because when doubt comes at me, it comes in a rush, and I will go down that rabbit hole, and I could be there for a few hours or a week.
Yeah.
It just stops me in my tracks. I freeze. And when I decide that I've got to free myself from it, I do it with a fight, with an anger. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, that's really hard because I'm generally a pretty generous person with others and I'm willing to listen to others. So if someone has triggered me into that place of doubt, I want to fight. And that's really bad for the relationship because usually they're doing that. And I'm thinking now of my sister, she questions my decisions from a place of love.
Yeah.
And that is what my mother did. And my mother was a child with a depression. She lived a lot in the fear of scarcity, and she passed that on to me in a huge way. Mm-hmm. So that I have overeaten, I've overspent, I've overindulged, coming from a place of being really afraid of not having it, having enough. And I know that she loved me with a fierceness. I mean, she was such a champion of her children, but she did, somehow she projected those fears onto me and I sucked them in like a little sponge. And it's only been in the last few years that I've really started to unpack all of that. From simple things like don't make too much noise, you'll wake up your father and he'll be angry. So not living exuberantly, which is my nature, to you need to be more careful about that because later on you may need that and you've given it away or you've been careless with it or, you know, those kinds of messages. So it's complicated. It's really, really complicated for me. And it's taken me years trying to understand it. And she tried to free me from all of that when she was on her deathbed, but she couldn't, you know, she couldn't free me from it. So, so this was really, writing about this really helped me understand some things that I hadn't quite put together in that way. So it was a very helpful exercise.
Right. And I'm going to offer us a very quick meditation you can use whenever doubt comes. So first of all is to notice it. That's, to me, is the key, because we will go down that rabbit hole. And it could, yeah, like you said, it could be a few hours, it could be a week or longer. For some people live in doubt, right? And they're constantly questioning and it's, you know, it's just social conditioning and limiting beliefs that are coming up. And so the first thing to do is to notice, oh, there's that doubt again. There's that doubt again. There's that doubt again. So here's what I'm going to offer us. So if you would get in a comfortable position one more time. And it's only going to be just a minute, but I want to do this. So take a deep breath in and exhale. And from this place, allow the doubt to come up. Whatever doubt has arisen from whatever it was you wrote, or maybe it's something else at this point. And what I'd like you to do is take your dominant hand and put it on your heart. And first breathe into your hand so that your chest expands into your hand, pressing into it. And then exhale, let it come back down. And the first thing we can do is to say, thank you. Thank you to the doubt. The doubt is here first and foremost to protect us. You can even thank whoever it was that showed up, that was bringing the doubt into your mind. Thank you so much. I know you're trying to protect me. I know you truly love me and that you're coming from a place of care. And then coming inward, allow your hand to press even a little bit further into your chest. Just pressing in and saying, I am enough. I have enough. And there is enough. I am enough. I have enough. There is enough. Take one more deep inhale and exhale. And if your eyes are closed, go ahead and flutter them open. Thank you. Welcome back.
I want to say that I am very reminded Of 12-step I've been to many 12-step meetings, particularly Overeaters Anonymous and Adult Children of Alcoholics. But when I went to Debtors Anonymous, this was in the early 90s, and they had a piece of paper and they read it together. On the piece of paper it said, I have enough, I do enough, I am enough. And it just got me crying. I just started sobbing with looking at those 3 sentences and saying them with other people. It just so triggered me completely, because it so got me in touch with the negative conditioning I had of never being enough, never being smart enough, good enough. You know, that enough word is huge in my training, and that came up for me in writing about doubt was enough. That's a biggie. So when you were saying that, I'm like, oh boy, I'm back at that Debtors Anonymous meeting. I'll never forget that. That's so, I mean, I just became this fountain with these 3 sentences. They were very powerful. So I was really taken back there in a good way, because it was an important recovery and healing process for me.
Good. I hear that. Thank you. I want to talk a little bit about the rabbit hole. Because we all know what that feels like. And I love the notion of, you're in a rabbit, you've noticed that. I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? Is to notice, I've gone down a rabbit hole. I've gone like spiraled down somewhere. And it's usually about wishing things were different than they are. Right? Really wishing things were different than they are. And to me, that's like a salmon swimming upstream, right? That if we are in the flow, we're flowing downstream. Things are the way they are, right? And so we can constantly be fighting, or we can breathe through, allow. And I'm not talking about social justice here, right? Like if we see something that's amiss, right, that we do need to stand up. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm just saying in terms of how we show up in the world, right? How we show up in the world, we can either breathe through and allow, if there's friction or something and we start going down a rabbit hole, we can say, oh, I'm noticing that I've gone spiraling somewhere. And I can either follow that path and be lost for a week, or I can notice it and say, whoa, okay, it's just a rabbit hole. And things are the way they are. Usually if you can come back to the word allow, that works for me. Just allow what's happening. Allow the emotion, whatever it is coming up, allow it to come up. Right. And it may not be in that moment. I may have to come back to it in a meditation later today or tomorrow morning or something like that. I may not be able to deal with it right in that moment. And right in that moment, by the way, we all have the capacity as human beings to compartmentalize. And we can say, I'm going down a rabbit hole. I'm not going to go there right now. I'm going to put this on a shelf for the moment. I'm going to keep doing what I need to do until I can come back to this whatever it is, this friction, this, as Eckhart Tolle calls it, a pain body, something that is just got a lot of density to it. And I can come back to it later. And then you can, do whatever meditation practice works for you. I offer, it was in chapter 4, I talk about Michael Singer's, thorns and that process, which we've done in class as well. Thinking about getting unstuck from some of this stuff, like, that we are these limiting beliefs like doubt and like other stuff that I talk about, scarcity rather than abundance, all of this fear is really the difference between in my mind, coming from fear versus coming from love. I have this conversation with people all the time. What are the things that make you feel expanded? What are the things that make you feel contracted? Those contractions typically are based in fear or wishing things were different than they are. And so if we can frame them that way and notice that we're fighting with gritted teeth. Karen, you mentioned before about coming from anger, that and I'm going to use words that you didn't necessarily use, but perhaps it was a coping mechanism that, you know, your mother might say something and your coping mechanism was say, oh no, I can do this, or, you know, whatever, fighting back. And whatever works for you is great. Like if anger or frustration, or that's where you need to come from to move forward, by all means. Another option might be to say, okay, so-and-so is putting doubt in my mind. I see that they're putting doubt in my mind. Thank you for your care and your concern. I choose to do it differently, right? And I want to show up in the way that I've set an intention to do so, which is coming from love, not coming from fear. So for me, my own personal practice is my intention, the intention that I set in everything I do, including my relationships, is to come from love rather than to come from fear in everything. And just that alone has changed my life. It's changed my relationships in the sense that if typically when somebody does something and I'm triggered by it, I immediately go to fear, and I can absolutely roll into that rabbit hole very quickly. Just jump right in, jump right down. This is a thorn that's coming up. And so once I'm able to unpack it and say, oh, I was triggered, okay, I feel it. I feel the irritation from the thorn. That's what happened. What am I going to do with this? I don't want to react, because then I'm coming out of fear. I'm literally living right now out of reaction and out of fear and out of past experience. I don't choose, that's not my intention. I don't choose to be in relationship with anybody coming from a reactive space. So and again, I've only learned this. This is, you know, only a few years I've been doing this. Before that, I did what everybody, you know, what we're taught to do. But again, practice. So it's that idea of, oh, I noticed what happened. I jumped down the rabbit hole, whatever. I've gone down a rabbit hole. Now I'm stepping back and realizing who I really am. I'm not any of these emotions, right? I'm not my reactions. This is just what the human conditioning has taught me to do. I don't need to, though. I have an intention to come from love. So I can share with the person who just triggered me, you know what? I need a minute, or however you want to make that happen. I am feeling some kind of way about what is happening right now. Do a little bit of a meta-analysis. Say, it's not you. I just noticed that I'm feeling a little triggered. I can even say, I want to work on it on my own. And then I promise, I make a commitment to come back to you, to share with you if we have an open relationship like that. And if I want to build a relationship with someone, that's what I would do, right? And then when I come back, having unpacked it a little bit, I, again, don't need to necessarily know all the details of why it happened and who and all of that if I don't want to, right? But I can allow the thorn to work its way out, and then I can come back to the person and say, you know, if you're interested, I can share with you what happened. This is how I was triggered. I have a beautiful practice that allows me to work through that kind of stuff, to process those kinds of frictions that come up in everybody's life. And now I can come from a place of love to share that with you. And we've built relationship there. Not so easy. It means coming from a place of vulnerability. So you may not want to do that with everybody you meet. If it's somebody that you're hoping to build a deeper relationship with, you know, that actually can expedite that process a little bit. Any questions on that? So I'm going to close with another meditation tonight. So if y'all are willing, I'm going to actually combine a couple of things that we in a way, hopefully that will be useful. So go ahead and find yourself in a seated position again that's comfortable for you. And notice your breath right now. Eyes are closed or gently gazing down. And as it turns out, when we think about doubt or we think about any of our limiting beliefs or anything that stops us from living the life that we would love to live, our biggest life, our fullest life, our most fulfilling, meaningful life, whatever stops us from doing that is actually the exact opposite of gratitude. Our limiting beliefs, whether it's doubt or anything else that make us feel stuck or sends us down a rabbit hole, it's almost impossible to go down that rabbit hole if you are feeling gratitude. So coming back to gratitude actually forms new neural pathways in your brain. New research shows that it actually changes your brain chemistry when you live from a place of gratitude. And so I'm going to invite you to do that, to find something in your life that you feel grateful for. It might be an anchor that you've used in this class, in this course earlier, or it might be something that just happened that you're excited about. It might be a person, it might be a thing, it might be your own body you're grateful for. Maybe it's your own abilities, your capacity that is ever expanding, your brain, which is just brilliant. Maybe it's all of these things. Finding something you're grateful for can make the difference between scarcity and abundance. And from this place of gratitude, I invite you to ask this question of yourself. What if I'm perfect just as I am? What if I already have all that I need to live my best life? What if I have all that I need to have the best relationships I could ever imagine? What if I already have the capacity to receive more good and more love than I could ever imagine? I am enough. I have enough. There is enough. Deep breath in. And together exhale. And if your eyes are closed, go ahead and flutter them open. Thank you. So we're back on track. We have 3 more weeks. We'll be sending out the link that will give you access to the meditations for next week. Right? We're trying to, by popular demand or whatever, doing it the way it works for you all. So it'll be chapters 9 and 10. If you can do the activities in the book, that's great. I do encourage you, if you haven't, to do the happiness practice. I want to say it's the beginning of chapter 8. It's the life mapping, Gardner's life mapping. It's on page 102. And just so if it was in any way unclear, it was the idea is to hold the page like this. And you're going to do this twice. So here's the first one, and then you have another page for the second one. And that'll make more sense if you've done the reading or you have access that, but that's how you hold the paper and then you draw your line, whatever it looks like. So if you haven't done that, I encourage you to do that on your own, and feel free to do some journaling in the journal about it. There's space for that in here. So again, committing to your daily practice, you can set up time with me. We have, like I said, 3 more weeks to do that. So if there's something you want to talk about, basically it's coming with questions, or if there's some particular area you're stuck or you want more one-on-one time, yeah, I'm open to that. That's what I'm offering. Any questions or anything before we sign off? Okay, well, feel free to reach out during either via email or Facebook also, that Facebook community. Feel free to make use of that. I wish you all a beautiful week ahead, and we'll see you next week. Namaste. Bye, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Bye, thanks.